Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. How are you? Guys, it's early morning in Los Angeles, in Hollywood. Post Academy Awards. Congratulations to Parasite, capturing Best Picture and Best Director. Lots going on in this town. It's the Super Bowl. The Oscars is the Super Bowl of LA, or at least Hollywood. And a lot going on, a lot of parties, a lot of people going out and about, and I'm glad it's over. So now it is Monday and gives us a chance to do another video on Denver. Of course, we've been focused on it all week. And I think this video will be interesting in that it's going to be about what surprises people about Denver. Surprising things about Denver that many people say they were amazed to find out about the city when they either visited or moved there. And, every city has that you just didn't know. You say, I didn't know that. I wasn't aware of that. That's very interesting. And so, that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So, before we get started, because this could be a long one, it's especially important to know that I'm just going to make up all this stuff up off the top of my head, and therefore, it's not real. If you want a real video, this isn't the one. But if you like silliness and potentially, I better put that in quotes, potentially some laughs, then this video may be for you. So, in other words, it's a parody. It's a parody of all of these videos online. It's a parody of city videos, a parody of travel videos, a parody of history videos. It's a parody of all that stuff. So what is surprising about Denver? Well, one thing is, you might think that being an outdoors type city where a lot of people are into rock climbing, kayaking, skiing, snowboarding, outdoor sports, camping, that there would be bugs everywhere. There are no bugs in Denver. There's very, very few bugs. Now, if you're from the Midwest, you're going to find this hard to believe. Because if you grew up in the Midwest or the South, bugs are part of big bugs, constant bugs, hundreds of different types of bugs are part of everyday life. You get to Denver and you look around and you realize after a month or so, you're not swatting, you're not smashing, you're not slapping your body from the constant barrage of bugs. Now, that could be for a number of different reasons, right? For one, the city was founded by John Denver's great-grandfather, Old Man Denver. And he was a guitarist and singer-songwriter, of course, just like John. And for that reason, they contracted at an early age with the bugs that to enhance the experience for visitors and residents alike, that the bugs would move elsewhere. So I don't know for sure because we haven't done enough research or spent enough time, but I think many of the bugs went to New Mexico. The feeling among many historians is that Old Man Denver worked with local governments around Colorado, as well as the state assembly and the governor, to get the bugs, the mosquitoes, the flies, a lot of them, to move to New Mexico. Now, some say that it wasn't New Mexico, it was Idaho, right? But you can tell from the lack of bugs that there was a concerted effort by a group of people in Denver in the early days. So we're talking mid-1800s, guys, to move the bugs out, to move a lot of the bugs out, because they knew that was going to be a major part of the experience of Colorado. And what's the point of singing about it, as Old Man Denver did, as John Denver did, if you're swatting mosquitoes? What's the point of talking about the starry skies if you're swatting mosquitoes off of your arm all night inside your tent? Okay. Now, you might have a scientific background or a research background, and you say, well, listen, you need the bugs. It's a chain. It's the environmental chain, the tree of life. You need the bugs, right, as food source for the small critters that are eaten by the big critters, that are eaten by the even bigger critters like bears and deer that everybody loves. Everybody loves bears and deer in Colorado. The moose. So if you don't have the bugs, no moose. Right? Well, they have enough bugs. And it was really some pretty good politicking. You think there's some slicksters running around Washington today, moving this country backwards. There's some in Washington right now. They're moving the country backwards. They're turning back the clock to the it was the 50s. We were in the 50s, and now we're going back even further. I don't know how they're able to do that time warp. So you think those guys are slicksters, those guys and girls. These guys in the 1850s, were somehow able to keep enough bugs to keep the Mother Nature supply chain of food intact, to make sure there's enough moose and bear and deer running around that it appeals to the outdoorsman. You can say to your kid as you're driving through Colorado, look at that, it's a bear. And here comes a bear rumbling down the road. Now, what do they tell you? What's the first thing they tell you in Colorado? Stay away from the bears. Just leave them be. I don't care if they come up wearing a straw hat and they're smoking a corn cob pipe. Just leave them be. Well, what do people do? What's the first thing people do when they see a bear? They go up there and mess with it. Are you kidding me? Do you think this is the bear's first rodeo? This bear has been rumbling around the roads of Colorado and Denver for longer than you can imagine. You don't think he's seen every little trick that tourists, like they try to scare him? Boo! Boo! Hey bear! He's heard this all his life, since he was a cub. And yet, everybody thinks they're so original, coming up to these bears and acting the fool. Well, nonetheless, the state and the local government and John Denver Sr., great-grandfather, the super senior, I guess, they all work together to get a lot of those bugs, a lot of those pesky bugs. Maybe that's what the deal was back then. They said, look, we gotta have bugs so that we can have other animals. And let's just move the pesky bugs out. It was pretty good. However they did it. They must have worked with the University of Colorado to come up with some kind of plan. Maybe they used John Denver Sr.'s music, great-grandfather John Denver's music. Maybe he was like the Pied Piper of Colorado. And he started strumming and playing and they got the right frequency of sound to attract the pesky bugs. And then he just got on a rail car, singing and playing all the live long day, and they drove the rail car down to New Mexico. The bugs followed. He got off the car and skedaddled, and the bugs stayed. I mean, however they did it, guys, it was an amazing accomplishment. So there you go. That's a surprising thing about Denver, is the lack of bugs. Another thing that people are really surprised by is the huge amount of traffic. Yeah, we've talked about this in other videos, and I'm going to say it's surprising even for somebody from a high traffic area like Washington, D.C., like Atlanta, like Houston, like Dallas, most major cities, but those in particular have really gnarly traffic. You know, the Northeast Corridor, Providence, okay? And now Providence is not so many people, as all of the roads in Providence, Rhode Island were made in the 1400s, okay? They were trails, and the city hasn't widened them very much since then. So all these cars are trying to squeeze down these old horse trails, and they get smashed together. And you can tell, Providence, look around and you'll see the sides of the cars are all scraped up. Not so much the front. It's not like accidents coming from the front and the back, right? It's a lot of side damage. And that's because the roads are so old, and people get impatient and they try to squeeze 2 cars into the channel for 1, or 4 cars into a room for 2, and they all get squeezed together, and then they have to call the cops. And they have special tow trucks in Providence, Rhode Island, that were made to pry the cars apart from the side. They're called side pryers. And it's one of the few cities where they have to concentrate more on the side damage than the front and rear damage. It's an amazing thing. So even with cities with crazy traffic, they're surprised that it's as bad as it is in Denver, because they think, oh, Denver is, this is the new frontier. This should be wide open spaces. They've got plenty of room. Even with the mountains, they could grow into the mountains. It's not like an ocean where you can't build a house or build property or put something down, even if it is a 14,000 foot peak. You can put something on there, right? So the growth of the city isn't limited, so therefore the traffic should be unbelievably smooth and easy, and that's not the case. So then they get there and they say, I wonder what's happening in town, that all these people came from out of town. Maybe it's a big rock concert, maybe it's the state fair, maybe it's some kind of citywide event, like maybe a huge farmer's market, something like. And guys, they just can't believe that this is the day-to-day existence. They just can't believe that Colorado faces the kind of, or at least Denver area faces the kind of traffic that they do every day back home. Now, what happens is they get captured by the beauty, they get captured by the friendliness, and it starts to balance it out in their head, right? They start to, in their head, think, oh, well, yes, this traffic is horrible. Yes, 3 or 4 people tried to drive me off the road so far, and I've only been here an hour. Yes, we've been crawling through the downtown area, or at least past it on the freeway, for 4 hours, and we've gone a mile. They start to rationalize all that in their head they say, yeah, but look at that range of mountains. They say, look, if I had to run from the law, if I have to run from the law, look at all the places I could hide up in there. And right, so they start to balance out the bad traffic with advantages that they start to real or imagined benefits in their head. They start doing that balancing act that we all do to rationalize things we want. There is an appeal to Denver. There is an overall charm, and the Denver effect, they call it. The people love it. People love Denver. They're not every city, even if it's an appealing place, that has that effect that creates loyalty and love, and where people really talk positively about an area. That's Denver. And it has that. It's kind of like certain actors are movie stars. They may not be the best actors, but they're movie stars. We could name a few people off the top of our heads probably that have that quality. But that's the way Denver is. Denver is a movie star of cities. Again, it may not be the most attractive city, like the architecturally significant or what, but it has that charm that makes it a movie star that people love. It has charisma, the X factor. That's what it definitely has. All right, so we talked about the beauty, and I think that's something that's important to mention, and let's talk about that a little bit. People are surprised by the beauty. Now they know because they've seen the Coors commercials, right? They've seen commercials, they've seen ski films, right? They know that it's a beautiful area, but then they get there and they're like blown out of their socks. You guys, until you drive from the city of Denver into the mountains, where it slowly and steadily grows, the escalation rises from the flatlands through the bumps up into the jagged edges of the high mountains there, the high range. You haven't experienced a rebaptism on earth. It's almost biblical in its power, because you see the awesome generation of beauty enveloping before your very eyes. Now, I grew up Catholic. I don't know. I don't hold anything against you if you don't believe in God. Whatever you believe. But as you drive west from Denver into the mountains, it's like a stage play of beauty is unfolding, and the director is some higher power, let's put it that way, some higher power that is not of this earth. And it's that transformation, I think, that partly why there is such a magical quality about Denver that people love so much. And they talk about coming back to Denver. It's almost like they're coming back to the source of baptism. It really does have this magical effect on people. Beyond the natural appeal of a beautiful place. It's like beauty plus. So add the magic on top of its natural beauty, and now you have this otherworldly effect about the area that is very surprising to people, and it makes them smile and kind of giggle to themselves. They feel so good, but it's not like a schoolgirl giggle. It's this deep joy coming out, just squeezing out. It's like an orange when you squeeze it and the juice is coming all out of the sides there. That's the way it is. It's like they're being squeezed with joy and they can't contain it, and it's coming out in this huge smile and sort of a stillness in their eyes. I can't really describe it much more clearly, but that's kind of what is going on there. And it could be partly the lack of air. The air is thinner up there. It might be somewhat of a scientific effect, right? That the air is so thin that it, they're drawing in all this beauty and fighting. Their body is slightly working a little harder to breathe, could be, some sort of effect like that. I don't know the science on it. I haven't done the research, but that could be a factor. So the beauty is surprising the level of beauty is surprising to many people. So let's get this one out of the way, because it's more of a recent phenomena, and it is the home prices are surprising to people. So an average home in Colorado, let's just say a starter home, let's call it a 3-bedroom, 1 to 1.5 bath, little starter ranch home. Maybe there's a garage, 1-car, 2-car garage. So, and then 20 years ago, you could get that home for, $5,000 probably. Now, that same home is upwards of $750,000. And the reason being, the number one reason being is because of California. California messing up that state and then moving to Colorado. Now, the only danger, that's fine. People have that freedom of movement. They can live where they want. But the only danger with the Californians moving to Colorado is they could do the same thing. The Californians are like this marauding band they're like a marauding band. And they're leaving California in groups to ruin other states. And that's what many people believe is happening in Colorado right now. So the problem with that is that the house that is now $750,000 in 3 years is going to be $1.2 million. Now, I don't know about you, but if you can picture a young couple that one is from Minnesota, the other is from Nebraska, they go to the University of Colorado. They meet each other, they fall in love, they want to move to a city that's big but not too big, a city with international appeal, natural beauty, and outdoor lifestyle, and they want to raise a family. And they're young, they're real young, they're like 21, 22, they're starting out. They have student loans. They have expenses. They have to pay the outrageous rents in Colorado. So now they get their beginning jobs in their various careers, and those are just the starting salaries. But they love America. They love the system. They have paid their dues. They're good students. They're good employees. But now they have to save the down payment on a $1.2 million starter house. We're not talking about a mansion. We're not talking about a McMansion. We're talking about a starter house that may not even have a basement. Where are you going to put the washer and dryer? Okay, you might have to put them on the back porch, which means in the middle of winter, you're going out to get the stuff you put in the dryer overnight, but it's out on the back porch. So now your underwear is so cold you can't even put it on. You got to put it in the stove to warm it up, because it's been out in sub-zero temperatures in the middle of February in Denver. Okay? They can't afford it. They can't afford it, guys. It's just outrageously expensive. They can't do it. And they can maybe do it if they piece together the down payment. But then they got to make the monthly mortgage. So now one or maybe both has to take a second job. Well, first of all, how are you going to find time and the energy to have kids? You get home from work and you don't want sexy time. You want sleep time. You look at each other, is tonight? Nah, tonight's sleep. So these are the intended effects. Now, you say, well, you're exaggerating. Guys, I live in the epicenter of real estate inflation. I live in the epicenter. I know what's happening. And that's what's happening in Denver. And people are surprised by that. Well, maybe we shouldn't be surprised. Maybe we should be keeping Californians from entering the state of Colorado without a good reason. right? So that is surprising to people, I think. So now some people coming out of high school, right? Maybe not necessarily college graduates, just regular people that want to get a job and get going in life. Maybe they have to have 9 roommates just to live in an apartment. They've got 9 to 20 roommates in one apartment. Okay, so you've got people sleeping in the cupboards in the kitchen. They say, all right, let's see, let's take a height check. And they check the heights of people, and the people that are smaller in stature, they ask them if they can sleep inside the cupboards in the kitchen. Or if they're tall, they'll say, look, you're the tall one. Can you sleep standing up in the broom closet with the mops and stuff? Okay. And then that scares the rest of the people because they forget that a guy is sleeping in there. And they open the door to the mop closet to clean the place, and there's a body in there. And they're like, whoa. Oh, Dave, I forgot you were one of the roommates. There's so many roommates, you forget who they are. You don't even remember their names or who they are. You know, you see people at the clubs, at the bars uptown, and you start lamenting your roommate situation, and they go, I know, I am one of your roommates. You're like, oh man, I didn't even realize, because there's so many, and it's so. So how are you going to buy a house when you can barely afford the rents? It's a spiral that the state, I believe, and the city need to get under control, but that's where we are right now. That's where we are right now. And I think people find that not only surprising, but shocking and somewhat depressing. All right, well, we got that one out of the way. But it comes up every time, so that's important. So I'd say the final one on our list that this particular list, there's so many things, but we're just covering a few. And people are surprised on how healthy people are in Colorado. And so we get the whole outdoor lifestyle, we get that. But it's beyond that, it's how they eat, right? The food that they eat, the length of effort that they'll put in to buy organic, the portion of their paycheck that they're willing to separate with in order to eat healthy is off the charts. So that's why many fast food chains have a little bit of a struggle in that area, guys. And that's why you see so many fast food chains offering much healthier options. I mean, just yesterday I went to a famous chicken place here in town, and they're offering these keto bowls, however you say it, keto bowls, keto, and it even says paleo friendly for the paleo diet. Well, where do you think all that stuff started? You say, oh, it's probably some hippies in San Francisco, possibly. But more than likely, it was the hippies in Colorado. Because Colorado is much, much more geared toward healthy eating than even California. And that's saying a lot. So that's why if you go on a date in Colorado, you don't want to be ordering unhealthy food because they will disown you right on the spot. You're off the list. If you were even a potential partner for this person, if you pictured yourself in the embrace of love with this physical beauty in front of you, and then for some reason you lost your mind and ordered a cheeseburger that wasn't organic, that wasn't one of the meat substitutes, and if the cheese wasn't a cheese substitute, and if the bun wasn't a bread substitute, then you're off the list. They will automatically disown you in their mind. When you see that, when you see somebody's face and they suddenly go from bright and shiny and you can just see the clouds go across their face and all of a sudden they're non-responsive, that's what happened. You blew it. So that's why it's surprising when people get there, man, you got to get on board. You got to get your kale down, because the thing is, It's not just the fact that people order kale on a regular basis and put it on everything. It's that they understand the 8,000 or 9,000 different types of kale. See what I'm saying? It's important. This is very important stuff in Colorado because they want to get their body fat down to less than 2%, but they don't want to be lifting weights. If you lift weights, guys, it hurts your kayaking strategy, your kayaking rhythm. You're too bulked up. You can't get a good kayak rhythm or a rock climbing rhythm if you're too bulked up. You got to be strong but lean. And that's why they focus so much on the diet aspect of health. You understand what I'm saying? And that's why they carry around 9 or 10 different types of kale chips in a suitcase. Some of these suitcases that were made for camera equipment, they've got that padding for the different lenses. Well, they buy those and then they put kale chips in there. So that's why you see these people carrying around photography equipment. You say, wow, this place is really into outdoor photography or any kind of photography. That's possibly true. But a lot of those people have 19 different types of kale inside those suitcases. I'm losing my voice. I'm so excited. It's so surprising. It's such a surprising part of the city. And I think it blows people away. They're like, how was your trip to Colorado? They're like, well, I mean, I brought back 45 different types of kale, and they didn't say anything at the airport. I thought they were going to frisk me and say, what's with the kale? Well, how come you're smuggling kale? Are you a kale smuggler? Are you smuggling kale illegally? Right? I expected all that at the airport, but nothing. They're like, hey, man, I love the kale. Hey, dude, I love all the different kale. Now, sometimes the airport security will reach in and start eating one of your kale chips or two, but in Colorado, that's like passing the doochie around the left-hand side, right? That's like, you know, they don't care. It's like sharing the goods. In fact, they'll just offer it. Hey, do you want a couple of my kale chips? Specially made, they'll say. Homemade. Okay? It's off the charts, and it's a very surprising thing about Denver. Well, guys, the sun is starting to rise slowly here in Los Angeles. I just thought, since I had the time, we'd talk about these really surprising things about the great, great city of Denver. I might possibly extend our Denver focus for another week. I haven't decided. I'll decide sometime today. But come back for more videos and you'll find out what's going on. Generally, what I'll do is, even if I don't extend it, we'll revisit here and there videos along the way for different cities we've done, to keep it updated, to keep it fresh, to keep people tuned in on what's happening in all these great towns. And yeah. So again, I made up all this stuff off the top of my head. If you've gotten to this far, you've obviously determined that, or you heard my disclaimer at the front of this video. I give it again just because we don't want people feeling like, oh man, I just got pumped. We're just goofing around out here, having fun. I hope you enjoyed it. Hey, you got any comments or questions? Get on the Twitter machine. Get on the YouTuber right now. Leave a comment, leave a question, say hi, and come on back.